Well, breaking fuck the news. It is being reported that Donald Trump held a 2-hour-long crisis talk with Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. Also present at this meeting was the Secretary's top aide, Corey Ladowski, White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, the Press Secretary, Caroline Levitt, the lipless wonder, and Communications Director, Stephen Chung. Now, it is being reported that the White House did not comment to the Times about if anybody's jobs were on the line. But this comes after Bovino was demoted and is being sent back to California, where it is stated that he is soon to retire. So they're sending him somewhere for his career to slowly die. And the next time we will most likely see Bovino will be in a trial. Now, that's not guaranteed information, but that's the way this cookie should crumble. The reports are also stating that Stephen Miller was not present for this meeting, which a lot of people find very suspicious. And then if you saw my last post, if you didn't hear about it, with Bovino's demotion, he was also removed from having any type of social media presence. He's not allowed, he's suspended from having social media access. And not only that, late last night at the Spring Hill Suites in Maple Grove, apparently there are reports that Bovino was in the window while other ICE agents mooned protesters right before the protest was deemed unlawful by local PD. I'll keep you updated with more.
So the Democratic minority leader inside the House of Representatives says that taxpayer dollars are being weaponized by the Trump administration to kill American citizens, brutalize communities, violently target law-abiding immigrant families. The country is disgusted by what the Department of Homeland Security has done. Pause the king to read, but basically what he is saying is Donald Trump must fire Kristi Noem immediately, or Democrats would initiate impeachment proceedings against her in the House. He said, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Now that sounds just about like it. Donald Trump's biggest fear right now, we hear him every time he get on the damn mic. They want to impeach me. They want to impeach me. They want to impeach me. No offense, I'm not voting for anybody who's not willing to impeach him, J.D. Vance, Kristi Noem, RFK Jr., Stephen Miller. I don't even know if he can be impeached, to be honest. But if you can impeach him, you better impeach him. I want everybody in this administration impeached. They deserve to be impeached. American citizens are dying. I mean, if you can't be impeached for that, what the fuck can you be impeached for? I mean, we already know y'all don't give a fuck about him making $1 billion the first time he was a billionaire. The failed businessman. He's now a billionaire, not because of his businesses, but because he's using the FTC and all these other 3- and 4-letter organizations inside our government to extort all businesses, universities, CEOs. I mean, he got more socialism in him than the actual Democratic Party. But y'all ain't gonna say nothing about that, though. Now, I think that they should, at the bare minimum, begin with impeaching Kristi Noem. I mean, this is her ICE officer basically saying, if you shout, I will take your fucking voice.
I will tell you this, brother.
What?
You know, I will tell you this. You raise your voice, I raise your voice.
If I raise my voice, you'll erase my...
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Are you serious? You
Yeah.
said if I raise my voice, you'll erase my voice?
Yeah.
Now, please tell me, what the fuck else was that supposed to mean? This is what happens when you have people like Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem, and you had Greg Bovino, but I guess they about to use him as a scapegoat, thinking we won't remember that we still don't know the name of the ICE officer who unalived Mr. Petty. This is what happens when you give officers the green light to kill with impunity and be white supremacists. Let's just be blunt. This is what happens when you have no accountability. This is what happens when you have too much money at your disposal. This is what happened when you have no morals, or they're based off of the president's morality. Whatever the fuck that means. I mean, his name's in the Epstein files. Do you really want the country's morality to be based off of him? Do you really? But y'all, tell me what y'all think about all this in the comments. Remember, check my links in my bio, follow me for more, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!
Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky like shooting stars?
And ended up violating it on multiple occasions through his social media posts aimed at people involved in his case. As a result, he was slapped with $9,000 in fines for 9 violations and ordered to take down the offending posts. Things took a more serious turn when the judge acknowledged that just fining Trump wasn't working to get him in line. He stated in open court that if monetary penalties failed, he was willing to consider jail time. His comments highlighted the tension in the room. He really doesn't want to send Trump to jail, but is prepared to do so if it comes to that. The violations weren't minor or accidental. They were clear, public attacks on the very witnesses set to testify against him. along with threats towards court staff and their families. Each of these actions raised safety concerns and potentially jeopardized the legal proceedings. It was evident that Trump was aware of the gag order and chose to ignore it. The findings of contempt show a blatant refusal to comply, not just a small mistake. Meanwhile, the impeachment papers are following a different path of accountability. A resolution with 7 articles of impeachment has been introduced in Congress, labeled HRES 353, marking a significant move in the ongoing saga. This isn't just a symbolic protest. It's a straightforward constitutional accusation aimed at removing Trump from office. The 7 articles included really cover a lot of ground. For instance, the first article dives into obstruction of justice and violations of due process, while the second one tackles Congress's power over spending, highlighting instances where funds were either misused or withheld without approval. Then there's the third article, which points at abuses of trade powers and international aggression. Moving on, the fourth article discusses violations of First Amendment rights, and the fifth addresses the creation of an unlawful office. Article 6 deals with bribery and corruption, and lastly, the 7th article encompasses a broader claim of tyranny, reflecting a pattern of abusive behavior. The resolution doesn't hold back. It clearly states Trump has shown he is unfit to govern. It emphasizes that his actions are completely incompatible with the principles of self-governance and rule of law. There's a stern warning that he poses a continued threat to the Constitution if he's allowed to stay in office. These conclusions are direct and leave little room for doubt. Now, the resolution has been filed as a privileged measure, which is important from a procedural standpoint. This privileged status forces House leaders to address it on the floor, preventing it from quietly disappearing in committee. So it's not so easy for them to just bury it. They'll need to take a definite vote to either reject or table it, putting everyone's stance on the record regarding impeachment. In December 2025, a vote on separate impeachment articles by Representative Al Green showed that there's already a significant amount of support for impeachment. Green focused on the abuse of power and incitement of violence, with serious allegations including calls to execute Democratic lawmakers. 140 House members were willing to support those articles before the Republican majority put a stop to it, which is more than a third of the members backing impeachment against party opposition. The link between courtroom behavior and impeachment allegations is pretty eye-opening, creating narratives that feed into each other. The same conduct that leads to contempt
limits, especially when those limits are set by his own party. Instead of pulling back or even pretending to take those warnings seriously, Trump responded in the most predictable way possible, by charging straight ahead. His latest post doesn't merely ignore Republican concerns, it openly challenges them, almost daring House Republicans to prove that their words mean anything at all. This was not an accidental slip or a misunderstood comment. It was a deliberate act of political defiance that sends a chilling message about how little accountability Trump believes he actually faces. What makes this moment especially volatile is the timing. These Republican warnings were not issued months ago or buried in obscure interviews. They were fresh, public, and explicit. The message from parts of the House GOP was clear: attacking NATO or escalating rhetoric around Greenland would cross into dangerous territory, and yet, within days, Trump chose to dance all over that very line, pushing forward with threats of his own as if he were testing how far he could go without consequences. This isn't just about foreign policy bluster. It's about whether a former president, now openly positioning himself as untouchable, can pressure his own party into silence once again, even when national security and international alliances are at stake. And if Republicans who claim they've finally found a backbone are being honest, this is exactly the kind of moment that should trigger serious accountability, including impeachment-level scrutiny. Trump's posture toward NATO allies isn't just controversial. It directly undermines decades of bipartisan foreign policy and emboldens adversaries who benefit from a fractured Western alliance. His rhetoric around Greenland is not policy, it's provocation. And when those provocations come from someone with Trump's influence, they carry real-world consequences. The question now is no longer whether Trump crossed the line, because he absolutely did. The real question is whether Republicans will once again move the line to protect him. Before going deeper, it's worth pausing to acknowledge how familiar this pattern feels. Over the years, we've seen countless moments where Republicans issued stern warnings, expressed deep concern, or hinted at consequences, only to fall completely silent once Trump pushed back. Betting on Republicans to stand up to Donald Trump has historically delivered very poor returns. Time and time again, political survival, fear of the base, and internal party pressure have overridden any sense of responsibility or principle. That history makes skepticism not just reasonable but necessary. However, even with that track record, the current situation stands out because of how openly Trump is daring them to act. This is where comments from Congressman Don Bacon become especially significant. Prior to Trump's latest escalation, Bacon made it clear that attacks on NATO or reckless geopolitical threats were unacceptable, drawing a boundary that was supposed to matter. Those statements were not ambiguous, they were not buried in political jargon, they were direct. And now Trump has responded by doing exactly what he was warned not to do. That puts Republicans like Bacon in a political vice. Either they follow through on what they said and prove that those warnings were real, or they expose them as empty talk designed only to manage headlines, not enforce accountability. Taken together, Trump's aggressive rhetoric toward NATO, his renewed fixation on Greenland, and the public warnings issued by members of his own party create a political scenario that is rapidly becoming unsustainable. Trump isn't just challenging Democrats or the media, he's openly testing whether Republicans are willing to protect him no matter how extreme his behavior becomes. The announcement he just made doesn't simply embarrass the GOP, it puts them on record in a way that can't be easily walked back. And now the entire country and the world is watching closely to see whether this moment finally forces action or whether it becomes yet another example of bold Republican talk collapsing under